morning. Numerous activities on the political scene. So this Monday morning, we'll be expounding some more the politics of the weekend. As always, that is the norm. And we welcome you to be part of this session right from now all the way. I'll loop you in on how you can do that briefly or shortly after, of course, we get to kickstart this session. The great introduction. My name is Glinda Alela. It is time for Morning Cafe. As always, we are right here to ensure that your day is starting on an interesting and a very informative note. And it's always a pleasure to have you being part of the session. From now, like I said, hashtag Morning Cafe is how you get to be part and parcel of the conversation at Linda_Alela, my Twitter handle, and at TV47KE. And you can as well, of course, stream live on Facebook. And you equally drop your comments there. We get to sample them as we proceed with the session. Equally, you can call in live. Later on, we'll be dropping the numbers to roll down on your screen. And we welcome you to be part of this session. What did you term interesting over the weekend in terms of politics? Some politicians, declaring their presidential bid. Some of them also declaring that, yes, BBI is on and is here to stay, at least to make changes for the people of Kenya. But, all this, is it really in the interest of the common mwananchi? The key question that we'll be asking this morning. Where is your share, or what is your share, or what are you going to take home after all said and done? Importantly, we'll be taking a look at the newspapers and what has been captured on the newspaper stories. We equally give a comprehensive look on the same with the panelists of the day. I'll be introducing them later on as we proceed. But key is that we also take a look at what it is that has been prepared by my editorial team in terms of news. So welcome on board. Be part of this conversation. Later on, we're having Deino Mtoto wa Mama. Later, that is on the lifestyle segment, or better said, on a musical Monday. We're going to enjoy some bit of music, and equally, we just get to know what he is up to as at now. Most of the musicians complaining that, Rona came on board and things are not as easy, especially for the musicians who would go and, run concerts, would, perform, in podiums and at least be able to get money. But then again, it looks like it's a whole different affair. So what next for Deino Mtoto wa Mama later on the broadcast? So let's kickstart as we take a look at the stories of the day. And so much so in terms of matters news, as I have said earlier on. And we start off with this interesting one that will also be forming the basis of our discussion this morning. And Machakos Governor Dr. Alfred Mutua officially launched his bid for presidency in the next general elections come 2022. Speaking at the inauguration, Mutua promised a bag full of job opportunities for the youth, adding that the nation needs a change which will be possible with new leadership. Nanok Lauren with the details.
In Mlolongo, Machakos County is where Governor Alfred Mutua announced his 2022 presidential bid, and with his catchphrase Mambo ni fresh na Mutua said it is now time for change and that the country needs a reboot with new governance.
I therefore declare that in the general elections of 2022, I, your son, your brother, one of you, Alfred Nganga Mutua, will vie to be the next president of the Republic of Kenya, so as to return Kenya to the railway tracks of where we were meant to be after independence. I am ready to press that reboot button. I am ready to give Kenya a new, fair, organized, caring, rich country of happy people.
Mutua added that in his leadership, youth employment, which is a struggle to many in the country, will be given an upper hand, as close to 5 million job opportunities will be created for the youth.
I will create 5 million jobs in the first 3 years. I know how to. I will build roads and highways in every constituency and maintain new ones to create an environment for growth. Our education will produce young and dynamic citizens who will find jobs waiting for them. We will roll back poverty and restore dignity to all, regardless of where you are born or your social or political dispensation.
The fight against corruption and tribalism that has eaten up the country, he says, will be dealt with accordingly.
Under my watch, politicians will never again steal public land and sell the same land back to government. Fellow Kenyans, we cannot continue to have a cycle of election violence every 4 years. We cannot continue with politics of mobilizing against each other and against other tribes. This must come to an end. My politics are about mobilizing the economy and against poverty.
Governor Mutua becomes the second governor in Ukambani to declare his 2022 presidential bid after his Makueni counterpart Kivutha Kibwana. Kalonzo Musyoka, another leader from Ukambani, is also eyeing the presidential seat come 2022. Nanok Lauren, TV47.
And ODM party leader Raila Odinga has assured Kenyans that his quest for pushing for the BBI report is to ensure sections of the 2010 constitution are in line with the needs of the country, saying that the National Assembly will too make recommendations before the Kenyans make the final decision.
Speaking in Mabole village in Butere, when he visited Governor Wycliffe Oparanya's residence, ODM party leader Raila Odinga picked issues with Kakamega Senator Cleophas Malala over his position on revenue allocation bill.
Sasa ukiona vile juzi mimi nilisema ati hao wabunge wanatakikana vile vile wawe na nidhamu na wawe na heshima. Wewe umechaguliwa kama mbunge au seneta, unawakilisha watu. Kwa namna hiyo unabeba bendera kubwa ya kaunti ya Kakamega. Kwa namna hii najivunia. Wewe sheria imewekwa pale. Wewe unasema tu wewe, mimi sitaki kunyima watoto pande hii, kulisha pande hii. Wewe umechaguliwa na watu wa Kakamega. Kila mbunge anatetea watu yake.
Odinga expressed dissatisfaction with Malala and urged him to pay close attention to the people of Kakamega who elected him. However, speaking in Vihiga, Malala has reaffirmed his stand on the divisive revenue allocation formula.
Ukiona kama kuna senator, watu wake wanapata pesa, na nakataa, sio ati anapenda wale wengine zaidi. Kuna nuksi. Kuna swali. Ujiulize. Kitu gani? Kuna swali. Sina swali. Wewe nataka jibu. Na hiyo jibu itatoka kwa wao, sio kwangu.
Na sio mimi kama kiongozi nasema. On Tuesday tunarudi kwa bunge kumalizisha hiyo masuala ya revenue. Mimi nimesema msimamo wangu ni ule. Hata mkiua Cleophas Malala leo, bora nikufe kama nimeacha watoto wa Vihiga wanasoma, watoto wa Kakamega wanaenda kwa hospitali, mabarabara zinaundwa, then I'm ready to die for that cause.
The politics of the BBI report also took center stage, with Odinga demystifying rumors going around that it is meant to push for an overhaul of the 2010 constitution through a referendum.
Sio tu mambo ya katiba peke yake, lakini mambo mengi zaidi. Kwa hivyo BBI sio tu constitutional amendment. BBI ni kuangalia mambo mengi zaidi. Hawa Waluhya wanaishi namna gani? Haya yote tunataka kuangalia katika hii BBI. Kwa sababu ile report ambayo tutapata itakuwa sio report tu ya kusema tunaenda kwa mambo ya referendum.
Report ikitoka, sisi tutaenda uwanjani tupikanie mambo ya BBI na mambo mengine ambayo chama italenga.
Mlindi Kerry, TV47, Kakamega.
And as recent rifts in Jubilee threaten the party's unity, Deputy President William Ruto has asked leaders to desist from politicking and concentrate on service delivery at the moment while attending a church service at ACK Church at the River, that is in Machakos County. The DP said that leaders who were voted in by Kenyans should work towards development, urging them to also practice humility.
DP Ruto's sentiments come amidst a bitter exchange of words between Environment CS Keriako Tobiko and Elgeyo Marakwet Senator Kipchumba Murkomen. Without mentioning any names, DP Ruto agonized that some leaders are no longer keen on fulfilling their respective duties but are instead engaging themselves in early politics, reminding those who are elected or appointed under the Jubilee Party to prioritize on achieving the Big Four agendas.
Na mimi nawauliza sisi wote tuliopata nafasi hiyo ya kuongoza katika viwango mbalimbali, tuwe wapole, tuache vishindo vya kiburi na makali ya matusi, tupunguze ndio tuweze kufikia yale malengo Mheshimiwa Rais na serikali yetu ya Jubilee tuliweka kwa minajili ya kutekeleza maendeleo katika taifa letu la Kenya.
Ruto emphasizing that a united country will go a long way in elevating Kenya's economy that's currently crippled from the effects of COVID-19 pandemic.
Mambo mengi yamekwama. Tafadhali tuhakikishe ya kwamba priorities zetu ni vile tutafufua uchumi, tutahakikisha kwamba tunatekeleza miradi ya serikali ndio tuweze kuleta Wakenya wote katika mahali ambapo tunaweza kuzungumza kama ndugu na dada wa taifa moja.
Kiharu Member of Parliament Ndindi Nyoro weighing in on the matter, criticizing Environment CS Keriako Tobiko, saying it's unfortunate for a leader who once served as a Director of Public Prosecution to utter words meant to demean the DP and words that could potentially be divisive.
Na kuona ya kwamba unapewa kazi na rais na unapewa kazi na Deputy President kwa sababu wote wawili ndio walitekeleza hii cabinet. Na kazi yako unachukua microphone. Unatoa matamshi kama hiyo Tobiko alitoa. I think we are not headed in the right direction as a country. Na nikiuliza rais wetu kwa heshima, ni vizuri aangalie na aulize watu kama Tobiko. Ambaye alikuwa DPP, there is no single case unaweza niapia ya big fish ambaye alipeleka kotini successfully akiwa DPP. Awaapia ni vizuri sana, tuheshimu viongozi wote. Ipewa kazi kama hiyo yake ya forestry, tafadhali panda miti. Kuna pahali kwingi sana hakuna miti.
It's clearly a divided house in Jubilee, and although the cracks are so vivid, the two camps have given their sought relationship a blind eye. The DP now blowing hot and cold in regards to the 2022 presidential race and early politicking versus delivery of service.
And President Uhuru Kenyatta's second-term cabinet has become our politicking cabinet in the recent past, as the country continues to witness different reactions in regards to matters politics 2022 and as it gears up for the same. And with the lines drawn and the cabinet sharply divided into loyalty camps, conspicuous cabinet secretaries have been playing politics under the guise of inspecting projects across the country. Let's take a look at that.
Driving in fuel guzzlers, enjoying police escort, inspecting guard of honors, and the affluence that befits the office of a cabinet secretary. It is time for certain members of cabinet to shine, not really shining in the work they have been entrusted by the president, but to prove who can shine better in politics and cabinet works. This is a life of a few cabinet secretaries who have coalesced eyes front on 2022 with their future in cabinet bleak after Kenyatta's tenure. The bandwagon led by Interior CS Dr. Fred Matiang'i has recruited other CSs, among them ICT CS Joe Musheru, Education CS George Magoha, Devolution CS Eugene Wamalwa, Forestry and Environment CS Keriako Tobiko, and the latest entrant Mutahi Kagwe. The all-men caucus has veered off into the murky waters of politics and taking President Uhuru Kenyatta's critics head-on. The recent being Friday, where CS Keriako Tobiko blasted Deputy President William Ruto, referring to him as just a mere clerk to the president, in a petty quarrel with the latter's diehard Elgeyo Marakwet Senator Kipchumba Murkomen.
There are still 2 years. 2 years to 2022. The office of the president is not vacant. at all. Under the Constitution, there is only one office that is recognized, and that is the President of the Republic of Kenya. And that office is not vacant.
But it is not only Keriako Tobiko who has openly expressed his utter disgust in Deputy President William Ruto. His immediate boss, the Christian Super CS Dr. Fred Matiang'i, has not once publicly confessed that he works and reports to President Uhuru Kenyatta in his nationwide tours. Even in the much talked about cabinet recess, on the day he was supposed to go on recess, Matiang'i and CS Joe Mucheru hit the ground running full throttle.
As you know, we are supposed to be on recess, and the media has been talking about us and recess. But this is a very important function, very important meeting. We are always very happy to meet with the youth.
Yes or no recess, it was time well spent this morning, and it's my pleasure to declare the
CSs are either inspecting national government projects or accessing counties' COVID-19 preparedness. Even when the curve is said to be flattening, they have been playing politics surreptitiously. At one time, in a coded yet well-passed message, the newest entrant into Uhuru's cabinet, Health CS Mutahi Kagwe endorsed Interior CS Dr. Fred Matiang'i for a higher seat.
Ninyi watu wa Kisii, saa hii sio ya kubehave normally. Kitaka kuona mbele, mkiwa na macho ya kuona mbele, sasa ni lazima mshikane pamoja, ni lazima muwe kitu kimoja, ni lazima mnasema na msemo mmoja, ndio yote iwezekane.
A day ago, at a trip in Kajiado, Kagwe confessed that were it not for Matiang'i, who had called for the meeting, he wouldn't have set foot in Kajiado if the meeting was called by another person.
Ukisema huyu ni Simba, unaangalia Mutahi Kagwe unasema huyo sio Mutahi Kagwe, huyo ni Matiang'i. Na unaendelea unasema kila siku huyu ni Matiang'i. Wewe unafikiri siku moja Mutahi Kagwe atakuwa Matiang'i? Hata ukizungumza miaka 1000, mimi nitakuwa Matiang'i kweli? Nitakuwa Matiang'i kweli jamani?
My brother Matiang'i, the president did not make a mistake in appointing you to be the chair of this sub-cabinet committee of the full cabinet of NDICC. Kuna wale wanasema Matiang'i amechukua kazi ya mtu fulani. Matiang'i hajachukua kazi ya mtu fulani. Matiang'i anafanya kazi jukumu lile amepewa na rais kulingana na nguvu zake kikatiba.
The bandwagon led by the powerhouse, the enigmatic Matiang'i, has continued to ignore the president's calls on his members of cabinet to keep off politics. A visibly angry Uhuru Kenyatta in 2019 read the riot act to members of cabinet who went about politicking. But seems the big five might be having the blessings of the president. Were it not so, he would have already cracked the whip.
sisi si wanasiasa. Hizi ni watu wa serikali, zimepewa kazi na mheshimiwa rais kufanya na tutaifanya. Najua tunakula ile kiapo inasema tutafanya kazi bila shauku, uoga wala mapendeleo.
Wewe kama huko tayari kufanyia wananchi kazi na jukumu lako ni siasa, piga about turn. Vijana niko nao wengi ambao wako tayari kufanya kazi.
For Mwangi Kionjuri and Rashid Echesa, it became messy and noisy. They were shown the door from cabinet for playing politics. Maybe they served as a lesson to members of cabinet who are deputy president's allies who have decided to keep it low and let the big five run the show. It has proven to be a tall order for cabinet secretaries choosing between politics and work in a cabinet that Uhuru Kenyatta promised to be devoid of politicians. Each is as sweet and enjoyable as the other. Mwangi Maina, TV 47, Nairobi.
And now let's take a quick breather. We'll be coming back with the newspaper review. the newspapers for you. It is time for the newspaper review, and joining me this morning is Sir Alex Mwathi, who's an engineer and political analyst, and we also have Nelly Technology joins me also to expound some more on the newspaper this morning. So much so has been happening over the weekend in terms of politics, in terms of COVID-19 numbers. The curve is going down and down, and whether to be excited or not is still a question that many people, or that lingers in the minds of many. And of course, equally, some presidential candidates, declaring their bid for running in 2022, if at all, is going to be the same system of governance. That is the presidential system. Is still a question of wait and see, or maybe we're going to twist and turn to the parliamentary system of governance. So yes, welcome on board, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for finding time this morning. How are you?
Very well.
Yeah.
And, it's always a pleasure for you to invite me. Thank you.
Thank you too.
Great
you well?
morning. With the curve is not going down. It's supposed to flatten. How is it going down?
That one is an interesting conversation to have. As I have started by saying, most of the Kenyans are not even sure whether to be excited or not. Like, it is not just clear what is happening here, but all the same, all we know is that yes, the numbers have been going down and down and down. It has gotten most of the sectors confused, and that's why we have you this morning to expound more. Nelly, you well?
Thank you very much. I'm well.
Okay, so yes, here we are, and I think we'll start off with what is on the People's Daily. On the front page, glory moment awaits deputy governors as they may be unknown on the national podium, but EACC boss wants regional assistants to take over from being bosses, or from besieged bosses. And I think there's a story that has been captured on page 4. This should be in relation to how, of course, or what would be termed as, the misbehaving of most of the governors. And if you can see this story, you find that most of the key figures have been captured on the front page. Of course, we know the latest of the stories that has been ongoing on matters Obado. But there's also been this talk that, it's been a political witch hunt, especially with the deputy governors trying to so much so witch hunt on their leaders. So once their exit is declared, or is confirmed, then they can set in and take charge of these particular regions. I don't know what you make of this, Nelly, before we get to hear from Sir Alex.
Okay, well, according to me, it is not yet a glory moment still, because as per the Constitution, anybody in office accused of corruption should exit the office first for investigations. So once you're guilty or proven to be faced with corruption charges, then that is when we should say that is the glory moment for the deputy governors. But as per now, it is not yet a glory moment until one is proven guilty.
Mm-hmm. All right, and of course, coming to you, Sir Alex, and in this case, we take a look at what has been happening in Migori County. And as captured right here on page 4, they say that why Obado's Oyster bid is not a walk in the park for him. Second-term governor is known to vigorously resist any attempt to challenge his authority in the county. And this conversation that ODM has now set in to call for impeachment, or to, mobilize the MCS to proceed and impeach him. I mean, just what does it speak? And they've literally told the deputy governor to take charge, which again is the constitutionally role that they should play.
The deputy governor can only take up the role of governor if the governor is not in office. Today, our friend Obado is still in office. He's still challenging the matters in court while he's still in the office. So the deputy governor has no chance to take over from him. It's a very interesting situation that we've set ourselves.
But again, it looks like it's the constitutional role of the deputy governors. And in what you see in Migori County, indeed, the deputy governor has taken charge. He's called shots. He's called upon, some changes to be made. And it's obviously and clear and evident that this is because his boss is probably, facing this raft of, corruption cases in court.
I wanted to connect my comment with the Kiambu situation, where when Waitito was besieged, the system, and allow me to use that word, but people don't like it,
allowed Nyoro, the deputy governor, to take over even before the matter was concluded. If the system have decided Rubado must go, the deputy governor can take over. But constitutionally, there is no reason. This guy might step aside or should resign or something for the deputy governor to take over.
All right. Well, I think there's a bit of a hitch, but all the same, I think we pick up at that point that it's important that we follow the due process, or they follow the due process, so we can wait and see. That one of the stories on People's Daily. Another story is that Ruto, that is the Deputy President William Ruto, lashes out as CSs or at CSs over insults. And after a weekend of high-octane changes and exchanges between Senator Murkomen and Tobiko, DP tells ministers to either serve Kenyans or resign and join politics. And his addresses yesterday at ACK Church, St. Paul's, that is in Athi River, Machakos County. And we've been treated to this. I know later on we'll be discussing the politics of the weekend. But what do you make of what has played out?
At the beginning of last year, and towards the end of this year, the clamor and the president kept talking about people stopping politics until the time for politics. And my position has always been politicians are politicians 24 hours, so I didn't understand what he was talking about. But very interesting to see his CS is now fully throttled, including abusing his deputy. It doesn't augur well for a country where the leader of a country keeps quiet when people abuse his deputy. It doesn't augur very well. It doesn't augur very well even immediate assistant. And what I would advise my friend William Ruto is to tone down his rhetoric also, so that you leave them alone. Leave them alone, let them make their noise. People know what they want, and that's it.
All right. Okay, and Nelly, still on the same, or still on matters of politics, we have a different story right here, and Raila moves to reclaim the Western Kenya region. And for the longest of time, the people of Western Kenya have felt like, we have been loyal supporters of the Right Honorable Raila Odinga, or at least a majority of them. But really, once he gets to wherever it is that he gets, he tends to forget the people of Western. And for a long time, there's been this talk that maybe he is losing the grip that he's had in Western Kenya. Do you suppose that he stands a chance of getting the same?
You see, the Western Bloc in general has always been, and it is a critical bloc for the ODM brigade, or for the Raila's brigade. So over time, there's been a fallout and realignments of some of the Western leaders towards the DP camp. So what Raila is just trying to do here is he's trying to woo the Western people back, especially the guys from Ford Kenya and ANC, because being a critical bloc in his brigade, this is something that when he tends to forget about Western, then he'll be signing his own political obituary, because Western is a critical bloc. It has numbers when it comes to elections and voting. So he's just doing them closer to him so that he doesn't sign his political obituary by forgetting about them.
And speaking of the same, again, he speaks highly of the BBI and the fact that, yes, reggae is on. And this is not to root out what we have as a constitution right now, but to strengthen and to amend some of the things that do not address the interests of the people. In this bid, Sir Alex, do you suppose then that he'll be able to successfully, first of all, again, get the people of Muleme Nation, supporting him? And importantly, does he have the interest of the common wananchi, like he says, on, selling the BBI?
He has never had the interest of the interest of the common man in his mind whatsoever. So he's not going to start today. I'll tell you what, Geraldine and our listeners, Linda and our listeners, that BBI is a wave. almost every single election that has happened in the past, whether it's 92, 97, 202, whichever year, there's a wave that was created by the politicians to divert the attention of the ordinary Kenyans from the issues that are facing them to something that something ethereal like romance that they are trying to reach for. And
all right, we're still not able to get you very well, but what would be your take in regards to the BBI, Nelly?
My take with regard to BBI is that, well, in my opinion, it's about misplaced priorities. The other day, Raila Odinga was saying that the referendum shouldn't cost more or less than 2 billion. So you're here wondering, we have Kenyans who have lost their jobs. People have been unemployed for so long, yet he's talking of the referendum taking or costing less than 2 billion. So why don't we think about these people without employment, without their salaries being paid? Let us first sort them out first before we start thinking of spending the country's money on other things like amending the constitution. So to me, it's a misplaced priorities.
All right, well, that's an interesting view right there. And I think on that very note, let's cross over to page 2. I hope we've been able to, again, clear the airwave for Alex. And division set to dominate revenue sharing settings. This is a story that has been captured on page 2 of the People Daily. And some lobby group calling upon the members of the Senate to let Uhuru out of this stalemate. And they say that it is incumbent upon the Senate to address this. So this calls that President Uhuru Kenyatta should set in and, offer a truce, misplaced calls, and maybe would not really land the country into the best port of, getting a solution. So, Alex, if you can hear me, we've been talking about this for a long time, and we all thought that maybe the 12-member committee would be able to, award us a solution to this. But clearly, it is not the case, and politics has indeed engraved itself in addressing these issues of the stalemate.
Yeah, that's true. I hope you're getting me correct now.
Much better.
Okay, thank you. It's a very interesting subject, and I think we've been treated to these circus for quite a while now. The Constitution is very clear about how revenue, whatever distribution should be done to the counties, and what the members of the committee had tried to do is to introduce something that is beyond and above what the Constitution says. They just need to sit back and just do what the Constitution says. That's their mandate. It's not for them to create anything else. This 1 man, 1 vote, or whatever, 1 shilling. Where is it in the Constitution? It's not there. So let's stop all these shenanigans and do what the Constitution says. If we want to change that, we can change it. We don't need a referendum to change that clause.
Okay. Well, yes, we wait to see what will happen in regards to the same. The stalemate is still on, even as this story that has been captured right here also on the front page and expounded on page 9 says that governors and CSS clash over COVID-19 donations. I think the stalemate runs across all the fundings that have been sent to the counties to cushion, first of all, matters COVID-19, and equally the 316 billion that is said to be distributed amongst the counties for development purposes. And the governors have threatened that they're going to stall up activities at the counties in the event that this is not addressed. Do you foresee a scenario where we'll finally get a truce so we do not render, the counties are, at standstill? Nelly?
Okay, well, this is an issue that needs some focus, because I feel the Senate is dragging its feet with the revenue sharing, because with their disagreement, the county government's business is being taken aback. Because I think they should just come to a consensus. They need to agree on a way forward that can sort the counties, because their disagreement will cause a long-lasting ripple effect on the county governments. It is high time they come to an agreement about revenue allocation.
Yeah. Okay, well, and this story that I've just touched on, governors discount Ministry of Health donations tally, and they say a new warpath opened after county chiefs denied receiving coronavirus equipment from the ministry. KEMSA Equipment's county bosses rejected a list that was prepared by Health PS Susan Mochache, indicating that the regional governments had received, and according to the PS's later, that was being stored in a warehouse at the Kenya Medical Supplies Agency, which is currently on the spot of allegations of embezzling COVID-19 related funds through inflated tender prices. So this is about the equipment which is being considered to be a scam. And amid all this, we also talk about matters COVID-19, like we started by saying, and the numbers have gone down. Experts predict a safety after county peaked pandemic. And while the organization has warned or had warned Kenyans recently against dropping the guard, noting that the population was not out of the woods just yet. So all this in matters COVID-19. Red flag of a tighter corona surge, calls for enforcement. I mean, just what exactly, Alex?
Very interesting. The numbers have dropped yesterday to 83. Yeah. Test of 3,069. If you remember, Linda, in the recent past, we've been having an infection rate of about 7.5% to 10%, but now it's really dropped to 83 on 3,000. It's good news for a country that believes in the statistics that the government gives. But I think the reason why people are having all this conversation is because people have been doubting those numbers. Let's face it, Tanzania, across the border, they have no issues. They are back to school, their offices are open, whole life is going on, and we don't see people dropping in the streets dying. So let's move on. And I've said this before. You remember last time when we were talking about opening, I said the government must open this country again. Let's move. It will be with us. We'll create our own immunity, and that's it.
Oh, yes. And away from that, let's cross over to what is on the front page of the Standard newspaper. And Gregory is back. The conversation or businesses as usual after months of subdued political activity due to the COVID-19 pandemic right here in the country, and leaders across the spectrum return to the front lines. Some of them you will see in public rallies and others in private meetings, captured on page 6, 7, and 8 of the Standard newspaper. And I think this has been ongoing to a point where Kenyans started pointing fingers and questioning just how genuine the leaders are, because you cannot preach water and take wine and expect the citizens to follow same or to follow suit. Where does it place us, Nelly? Does it then mean clearly that, as Alex said, it was important or it's long overdue that we would have as well ensured that we go back to business as usual?
I totally agree with Mr. Alex. We should just go back to business as usual, because look at our leaders. They've been warning us to stay indoors, yet they are the same people who are holding private meetings and public gatherings. So let's just go back to normal. As I said earlier again, it is not time. The Standard says reggae is back. Raila used to say no one will ever stop reggae. So if it's back, then let us go to life as usual. But to me, again, I see it as a misplaced priorities. We still have some of the issues that needs to be addressed in this country, like the issue of unemployment amongst the youth. Let the government provide subsidies to cushion people from the effects of COVID, instead of them focusing a lot on the BBI and amending the constitution.
And speaking of, making changes, this is a story that has been captured on the Daily Nation. I'm not able to open that very well, but all the same, I have had a preview of it. Yes, and Raila takes lion's share on new votes. But that aside, there's been that story of Dr. Alfred Mutua, who officially declared his presidential bid yesterday with a raft of promises, saying that he's going to bring that change that the Kenyans have been waiting for. I do not know what you make of that bid that he made. Some looked at it as though, that was a premature approach. approach. Some of them looked at it as though, that is a great move, and there's likely that indeed he would be that agent of change. And, lots of talks revolving around the same. Alex, what do you make of this? I don't know whether he's your governor. Is he?
No, he's not.
Okay.
My governor. My governor is Nyoro.
Nyoro?
Kiam.
Nice. That's good. You think he's doing a good job so far?
Waste of time. That's okay.
All right.
We knew.
So
I'll be vying there in the coming election.
Oh,
okay, now,
nice.
Mutua's declaration of his intention to vie was coming because he's mentioned it in many forums in terms of even in social media, a desire to be able to be part of that change that can happen. My word to him is one of the 5 or 6 people who have already declared the desire to fight for the presidency. And what we can do is wish him well and let the Kenyans remember, I told you that politics is about personality cult. So you need time to build up your personality cult. And that's why he's doing it this early so that people can see him, see his face continuously. Number 2 is about propaganda. So you can't do propaganda unless you're already in. And number 3 is mass seduction, which is what he has started doing right now. Wish him.
All right. Yeah, we expound some more on that later on. And we see what prospects he holds. And we come back to the front page of the Standard newspaper. And to open schools or not, Uhuru's new challenge. Now it ceases to be Magoha's new challenge and becomes President Uhuru Kenyatta's challenge because, yes, again, he is the president. And President hosts high-level meeting to explore options for reopening schools as cases of coronavirus drop, and parents demand clarity on learning calendar. There's a story that has been captured on page 3, and fingers being pointed at Magoha, on the messages that it's like there's no clear message coming from the Ministry of Health, in as much as every other time we have updates and addresses from there. Aneli.
Well, I don't think it is the right time to open schools, or if we are thinking about opening schools, let us come up with a strategy as a country that will enable education to steer swiftly along the way. Because I feel when you just decide to open schools without a clear strategy, there's no way it is going to work. Maybe have a strategy of coming up with a strategy that maybe allows the candidates first to come to school. But again, before the candidates even step in school, let us have strategies put in place that ensure all the health guidelines are followed. And also let us have a clear communication from the Ministry of Education, which might involved.
And as we get to wind up on this, Alex, to open or not, or to reopen or not?
Linda, my position has always been, now,
go back to
I see this in May, I see this in June, let's go back to our lives. We saw situations in Europe, countries like Italy and Spain, where when this thing hit them, it hit them very badly, and within 2-3 weeks, we had almost 1,000, 2,000 deaths in a day. Brazil went the same way, that it hit them in March, and by April, I think around 16,000 people died. In May, they were dying in thousands per day. In this country, we've been on this journey for 6 months, and God has been very, very good to us. He's protected us. He's given us an ability to be able to sustain it. So we've had only 33,000, I think is whatever number it is of infection, and now we have dropped to reason why we should not open this economy. No reason whatsoever. Linda, we kept talking about social distancing, but go to Kawangware, go to Kibera, go to Mukuru kwa Jenga. What social distances are they having? We're not having people drop on the streets. Across our border in Tanzania, I say again, life is... God has protected Africa. Let's praise him and let's move on with life. The government must open up everything. I'm suggesting that next week, schools should be open.
All right, well, we wait and see. Well, they said that in November schools will reopen, and everyone was like, what is wrong with the CS for Matters Education? It looks like yours would be more radical if we say that by next week we have our students resuming classes. But all the same, we wait to see what will happen, and we hope for nothing but the best. Still so much on the papers, but some would not allow us to go through the same. Okiya Omtata is caught seeking to challenge DPP office powers. Well, that's an interesting one, subject to conversation some other time. And I can see your governor right here, Kiambu, in bid to recruit municipal board team. That is on the People's Daily. So much so. And we'll leave it at that. We say thank you so much, Alex Mwathi and Nelly Chepkemoi. Both of them are aspirants in their respective areas. Alex has just declared that, and Nelly, we know that yes, you'll be vying for some Bomet seat, Bomet Central or Bomet.
It is the Bomet County MP, which is normally termed as women.
Is termed as what?
It is normally termed as women rep, but constitutionally.
Oh, you're talking about women rep. Member of Parliament. Okay, women representative. That's what you're targeting.
Yeah.
All the best to you. And you are targeting what? To be a member of Parliament, Alex? You said you're going to
buy.
The
right time.
It's still too early.
Announce at the right time, but it's Governor Kiambu.
Oh, yeah. I ran for his money. Well, let's wait and see. All the same, thank you so much. And nothing but the best is what we wish you. That's where we get to wind up this morning session of the newspaper review as we cross over to a different segment altogether. Keep it right here. # Morning Cafe at Linda_Alela, TV47 KA. Keep dropping those messages. We get to sample them as we proceed with the show after this break.
Peterson, tumefutwa wote.
Yawa, pia wewe?
Tumeachiliwa.
Si pia wewe unaweza anzisha biashara yako?
Na hii economy venye iko tough sana.
But not to
political events over the weekend are, as always, the norm. Every other Monday, we look into them and we just get to, analyze, criticize, have a comprehensive look, because in most cases they speak volumes in what way the country will take in terms of a direction. So it is time for that session where we speak politics of the weekend. We welcome you to be part of this conversation. Hashtag Morning Cafe at Linda_Alela TV47KA. Drop your comments and we get to sample them as we proceed with the show. And joining me for the same, governance expert Kevin Osido, and we also expect Wafula Kalistas to be joining us later on. I'll introduce him once he joins us via Skype, but for now we start with Kevin. And yes, so much has been happening, including that declaration by Honorable, or that is Dr. Alfred Mutua, that he is going to run for the 2022 presidential bid. Well, not really news, but that was an official launch of the same. What way forward with a raft of promises that is given to the people of Kenya, but we do not overlook what has been happening in the Mulembe Nation, and Baba going back there, trying to reclaim his position, in the Mulembe Nation. Is it going to be fruitful or not, even as he talks on matters BBI? We also do not forget the events that took center stage in Athi River, in Machakos County. Lots of activities happening also. It is when, yes, Alfred Mutua was declaring his bid, and equally we saw the DP, that is Deputy President William Ruto, in ACK Church, St. Paul's, that is Athi River, equally firing shots at the few who equally fired shots at him. So it's a tit for tat affair, Kevin Osido. I do not know what you make of the events of politics, so much so, but all channeled towards 2022.
Yeah, thank you so much, Linda. It's quite interesting what's happening in our country, because in the midst of what really matters to the common citizen, we are seeing the people who should be speaking on behalf of and for these particular people whose voices many times are not given prominence and preeminence. A lot of happenings in our country. But as you rightfully said, I think all this is not new. The most important thing for me is how do we then navigate around all this against issues that are happening at the Senate, where county governments are still waiting for resources. Senate has failed to agree. Why don't we see a similar gusto, power, and commitment of the political class in terms of engaging with the Senate? Of course, we know that Parliament is independent, but no government arm is fully. Of course, let me just say they are independent but interdependent. So we also expect that the politicians, particularly the Deputy President coming from the executive, should be seen to be, whipping his team. Of course, ceteris paribus, all factors remaining constant, what's happening in Jubilee. But we expect that as much as they are doing a lot of the politics around what's happening, we need to see them also engaging in what really affects the common citizen. Dr. Mutua, of course, is a second-term governor. He's serving his last term as a governor, and this, as you rightfully said again, is not new, because you already mentioned the moment he was elected Machakos County governor, he said, okay, after this we are moving on to the presidency. It will be very interesting to see how this really pans out, because we expect a number of second-term governors also coming up to declare the same. And I've gone through Mheshimiwa Alfred's statement around 2 times since yesterday, and I failed to see anything new. I think that as a gentleman who has been touted a number of times as the best performing governor, depending on who is doing that analysis and the research and the scorecarding, I expected a lot, as opposed to just saying I will do. I wanted to see, and I was waiting to hear him say how he will do it. Because when you say you want to create 5 million jobs per year, we have had a government that has that promised 500,000 jobs in a year and has totally failed to deliver that. And you were only coming in as a governor to be able to tell us what you will do. And even if we went back to your county, which is Machakos, and then we look at the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics data around the youth unemployment and how many policies you have been able to put forward as a governor, then the question is it just a matter of talk and show? I was impressed about his naming certain individuals, like he mentioned Mzee Mokaya in his speech. But then you see again, I was left wondering, so what? Because we have seen even governors walking into hospitals to be able to bail out patients who have been unable to pay for their healthcare, dues. And many times it's just a show, because when you go back to those individuals and you ask them, so were you sorted out, or it was just pictures and camera? And that's exactly what normally it is. So as much as he referred to Mzee Mokaya as a gentleman who has 6 kids who have all graduated and are looking for jobs, I was waiting to probably hear him say, kuja Machakos County nikupatie kazi, ufanye this and that, and then you can be able to take care of your family or send your children, 2 of your children to come in. So I think the governor came out very eloquently, as he always is, to be able to share what he will be able to do. But I think the failure is in the so what. How will you really implement it?
And of course, we start off with that officially as one of the key topics that we pick up on. And it hugely speaks so much about what will shape the Ukambani politics moving forward. So where does he stand in terms of, I mean, we all acknowledge that we are ethno-majoritarian, and this is something that we cannot root out as a country. I mean, does he stand a position where he can, ungrip the hold that Kalonzo Musyoka has, so he gets to be appreciated in his own home before he comes to, entice the entire country?
That's a very interesting question, Linda, because as much as the governor as well spoke about inclusion, I would have loved to see him launch his presidential bid in Turkana or in Isiolo or Mandera or somewhere in Kisumu or Siaya, so that then we begin to see him as, because he kept talking about Mutua Fresh, President Mufresh. So I would have loved to see this spirit of inclusion beginning, this freshness around the spirit of inclusion beginning from the governor himself. So much such that he tells us, yes, we are ethno-Mediterranean, but then as a Kamba, I don't want to begin by sharing my story to Kambas, to the Ukambani nation. Yes, of course, they say that a prophet, by the way, a prophet is not accepted in his own town. Home, And so remember, within his own town or within his own home, you have the likes of Kalonzo Musyoka. At the same time he was launching his bid, one of the biggest political supporters and financiers of Ukambani politics, the former Senator Mudama, was of course on the streets with the deputy president, again after church service in Athi River, which is still in Machakos County, and they were saying, as you elect this hustler wenu, mimi pia munipigie kura kuwa governor. And you see, all these things, because were it to be something which is really for the Kamba people, then of course narrowing or rather expanding out of, moving out of Ukambani into the nation, would have seen all these big political heavyweights of Ukambani coming in to support Mheshimiwa Alfred Mutua. But of course that is not the case of Kenyan politics. So as much as we expect him to be able to be the one to unite Ukambani people, we will still be seeing a lot of launches. Mheshimiwa Kalonzo has not talked about his interests. Yes, of course, he keeps talking. Mudama has. Mheshimiwa Ngilu has not. Of course, she is serving in as a first-term governor, but always vying for presidential seat or supporting a winning candidate. 2007, Mheshimiwa Raila. 2013, Mheshimiwa Raila again. Then 2017, Mheshimiwa Uhuru Kenyatta. And so we also look forward to seeing how that will go. Remember that Mheshimiwa Kivuta Kibwana of Makueni has actually said that, yes, I am in this thing and we are also going to launch our bid. So all these are about 6 different Kamba leaders who are talking about siasa, politics, and they are talking about carrying the weight of the Ukambani people to be able to be the people to make them be the president that Kenyans are hoping that they will be. That notwithstanding, I am still looking forward to the space of persons with disabilities, young people, the youth, and of course women. Because imagine a scenario where the youth said, we are also going to mobilize ourselves around our own under 35 as Article 260J of the Constitution. Imagine if women also said that, yes, we also want to rally around a women network, and then we have our own candidate. If persons with various disabilities also said, we also through our network want to mobilize people around a president who is a person with a disability, then that in my view would give us an opportunity as a people to begin to have conversations where there is no politician who will speak about young people without having them on the table. There is no politician who will speak about women without having them on the table. There is no politician who will speak about, of course, the youth and all these other special interest groups without necessarily and effectively ensuring that they're right at the table where the decisions are being made. So if you look at Mheshimiwa Mutua's coming out and all that, of course, he said he has friends all over the world. But this country has very many friends. Sometimes we have failed, which brings me to maybe the last point about Mheshimiwa Mutua, which is on corruption. Because when you say you have very many friends who are going to support your bid, and when these friends come here to be able to support Kenyans to deliver on very key critical sectors, for example, healthcare, for example, unemployment opportunities, so creating spaces for the youth to be employed, we don't see you talking tough about the corruption that is taking place. Of course, I heard him saying he's going to be a fresh president and that we don't expect him to have people in his cabinet or in his presidency who are corrupt. But that is a talk which, in my view, Linda, needs to begin with some action now, because he's now a governor. He really has what it takes. And then lastly, the state of counties today is terrible.
Right.
As a sitting governor and somebody who is engaging with COG, the Council of Governors, and the president at the summit and all this, he should have really come out clearly to show how he's going to enhance, as a president, intergovernmental relations between national and county governments, particularly on resource generation, and how counties can be able to effectively strengthen their own source revenue spheres or opportunities. That, I think, was missing in his speech. And as a governor who is serving again for 10 years, he should have had enough experience to be able to not only advise, but to steer the path around how counties can be run and how they can be sustained.
All right, and indeed, it's an interesting conversation. We're equally expecting Phil Njau, who's the chairman, Central Kenya Maendeleo Chapchap. I do not know why he has not turned up this morning, but then we hope to have him. Probably he would have given us, or he would have charted the way forward for what it is that we have in terms of, the promises that they've made to the people. There's still so much, yes, and I think they did not expound all in regards to the same. It was more or less like a 10-minute speech that just tried to incorporate a raft of issues that he seeks to address. But lastly, on that very note, in terms, of course, of the division of the Ukambani region, and there's that argument, small talk within, that there's probably a situation or a scenario where Mutua is being used as a character to divide the Ukambani vote. Are they posing themselves as the next, divisive nature, or in comparison to what has happened in the Luhya or the Mulembe nation?
That is expected, because Kenya can only have one president at any given time. Yes, we have 48 governments, but all these governments are led and ruled, if I could probably use that word, by one person. So ultimately, we will see the truth behind all these, I want to be present, I want to be present, and all these.
But truth is that, as a second-term governor, that is probably a strategic direction towards ensuring that in the next government, he holds a stake.
Of course it is, but of course, also remember that within the BBI, there's talk around creation of regional governments.
Yes.
So probably he's also coming in to be
saying,
I could be the person who has what it takes to be the regional leader within Ukambani.
Right.
Or whether he's being used or not, I think that is a talk which has been there for a number of times, and we wait to see who is using who and who is not being used.
All right, and before we cross over to the next subject, we'll briefly loop in Wafula, at least he finally gets to join us. So briefly, Wafula, what is your take on that bid by Dr. Alfred Mutua as we cross over to the next subject? We have him? Yes, Wafula Kalistas. What do you make of that? Morning.
What I can say, Alfred Mutua has all the right to contest for president. Let us not blame him. We want to see what he has for the country. Let people compete favorably, because we are not supposed to rotate for few individuals. You see, Kalonzo, his political outfit has continued going down as time goes by. So I think Alfred Mutua is coming to trying to prove a point that he can take over from Kalonzo. Kalonzo have declared himself as a spanner boy for Uhuru Kenyatta. I think Alfred Mutua has all the right, as Kenyan has. Even me, I can contest for president. Let us not downplay people who are trying to challenge the bodies that we are seeing in the government. I think that is what I can say.
Okay, well, and like you rightfully say, it's a constitution. Sorry? Oh yes, it's a constitutional, right. So why not? Let's wait and see what will happen in regards to the same. Let's move in again to a different conversation altogether. And like you had rightfully said, that the DP was equally traversing, across Athi River, that is in Machakos County, and so much came out to play. One, in regards to how much we have seen also President Uhuru Kenyatta's cabinet secretary is going out there to politic, which I don't know whether it's a good thing. And the DP now again fires shots back to them. We have been treated to a lot of condemnation meted upon him, and now he fires shots back to the likes of Keriako Tobiko, telling them that, you know what, it is either you focus on developing, focus on unifying the people of Kenya, as opposed to focus on politics. If not so, then resign and cross over to this other side. And as I would play the devil's advocate, you started by saying that, in all this politicking, there's no interest of the common mwananchi. But DP says that, you know what, he wants unity. He calls on unity. And equally, Right Honorable Raila Odinga says that, you know what, we're not here to overhaul the current constitution, but to make amendments that are for the interest of the common mwananchi. I mean, the politics of the weekend. What do you make of them?
The DP, I agree with the Deputy President to that extent, that he says, if you are a cabinet secretary and you want to play politics, then quit office. But however, he is speaking to the wrong people, because it doesn't help him going to speak to some people around some bus station in Athi River. Yeah. Because as a Deputy President, you have what it takes to even call or someone. Whether they ignore your calls, write an email. You have a whole office, including a chief of staff, who can be able to do your, you are shouting around the streets in a very professional, diplomatic and presidential manner. Ceteris paribus, again, the issues they have with the president, because remember, even his office is no longer office of the deputy president. Yeah. It is within the presidency. So that, of course, comes with a number of issues, but it doesn't stop His Excellency the Deputy President from engaging with cabinet secretary. Remember, cabinet secretaries. Remember that when we had 2013 elections, and then this government came in office, in fact, by constitution, cabinet secretaries, the reason why they are no longer politicians is because the interest of a government of the day and a government in office is supposed to be service delivery. Yeah. And I believe that cabinet secretaries have a lot of work. I think they're resuming, is it this week, tomorrow or Thursday? And that this leave that the president gave to them should not have been seen to be an opportunity to politic. Right. So I think that the DP is speaking the right thing. Though he's speaking to the wrong people, he needs to just get into what he needs to do, call Mheshimiwa Keriako and any other cabinet secretary or any other government officer who is engaged in politics, and ensure that that they do the right thing. But remember that, Linda, the reason why a number of these things are happening is because sisi hatuna uwezo. The common mwananchi has nothing to do or nothing to say or nowhere to go to, So when you mobilize us and you come and tell us this is how it is, of course, within the presidency or within the relationship between the president and his deputy, as it were, 2013 up to now, really has grown very frostily. So what the citizen is hoping to do is that Mheshimiwa president and his deputy could sit and make the amend their relationship, so that we can see them putting on black ties again, red ties again. All those
Before
things.
he even gets to that, and just picking up from what Senator Kipchumba Murkomen has said, that yes, it could be true that sometimes they probably have gone against what is it that they should do as a people of Jubilee or as members of Jubilee Party. But equally, he points that while Keriako Tobiko could be honest and genuine in what he says, that the DP needs to respect the president. But remember, he's part and parcel of the presidency, like we rightfully put it. And clearly, again, shows a sign that they also do not respect the DP, because how then do you respect the president if you do not respect the person who's under him? So, I mean, they are treating us to a lot of confusion, or so to speak. The common mwananchi does not really understand what happens. And I mean, you also see President Uhuru Kenyatta being silent, even when shots are fired as his DP. And we ask ourselves, just what is happening?
Ni siasa. I think from where I sit and from what I see, and I have friends who speak very closely to them, it is politics. Okay. The Swahili say, fali wawili wakipigana ni nyasi ndio humia. So this is politics which is being played at the door of the common citizen, just because sisi hatuna uwezo. There is nothing, we cannot send policemen with tear gas, We cannot stop you from coming in with all those very loud, very huge loudspeakers to speak to us. And because we are people who have been put in that state by the virtue of, they want us to be present when they want us. So they do not give us jobs. They ensure that they are at any given time in any town in this country, more than the 4,000 towns that we have in this country. There will always be some jobless youth hovering around the town, so that anytime a politician shows up, even anyone, even at MCA who is just passing by, akiteremisha kioo hivi, there will always be young people, coming in, and that's what the political class is excited about, which is what, in my view, we need to begin to change. How then do we ensure that that this country can just run for 5 years without very heated political engagements and debates? Because it's so sad, Linda, that every time we hold our elections, the next day people are already beginning to declare, I want to be president, I want to be the next governor, oh, you should elect me as your MCA, and all these things. Now, what that therefore means is that anybody who wants to be president should be properly vetted by the common citizen, so that when you say you want to deliver on certain promises, please show us how you want to do them, and then we can be able to have reviews, and that these elected leaders should also be ready to be reviewed and peer reviewed within and among themselves, and also by the citizens. And many organizations, including the one where I serve with County Governance Watch, has very many scorecards. We have very many tools to use to be able to ensure that we check these people. But that power needs to go back to the sovereignty of the people, which has been given to them by the Constitution. So if leaders like the Deputy President and all these others could begin to show us that example, so that even after church service, why not walk into a county assembly and say, can you organize for me leaders of this community? And I want to talk to them about development of their area. So that you begin asking them about water issues. Do you have water? Your county budget says that you had 840 million for the government to be able to ensure that you have water. Is that happening? No. And ensure that the governor is there to also be able to respond. And if we see that happening, even at the level of national, we will not see cabinet secretaries fighting, because the reason why this is happening is because CS is also not so very sure about where he or she will land after this government leaves office. So everybody is trying to find a footing. But if Keriako Tobiko, for instance, because we are using that case to talk about this issue, would have said, okay, the DP is in Athi River. Let me also troop in and join in that bandwagon. Elgeyo Marakwet Senator, also Kipchumba, says, let me also troop in. Can we have a conversation? We saw the CS Matiang'i having Nyamachoma with some governors and CSS, and then they had a similar nature of engagement, where Keriako is there, Elgeyo Marakwet, Senator Kipchumba, the DP, the president, and they're having a conversation with the people and asking them, how do you think we are leading you as a people? Because as it is right now, the nature of our politics is very ethnocentric, is too much of negative ethnicity, and that is not helping us. It is hurting us every
other day. Well, at least they always say again that when you see them together, you need to get scared. So I don't know how that would work. So it's probably, the division is probably much better for the sake of the common man. Do we have Wafula? Oh, Wafula, you there and stand by. Okay, so we are speaking about the sovereignty of the people. And my question then would be today, before we even get to know whether we should have change in the cabinet or not, do you suppose then, as the people, we've sold our power to the politicians, small handouts, and then we overlook the sovereignty that we hold, we overlook the power that we have to make change?
I think we as Kenyans, we are very coward people. The way Kevin is saying that we don't have power. The power belongs to the people of Kenya. It's only that they don't know how to exercise their power. We are seeing a situation whereby when the role of citizen stops at the voting day, during the voting day, then they allow these people to do whatever they want for the country. I think we have to wake up and fight for our rights, champion for human rights, protect ourselves, because we have seen even this during this COVID-19 pandemic, leaders have taken advantage of our resources. They have shut down businesses. They have no reasons. Then people are just quiet. It is very unfortunate. I think Kenyans need to wake up. They need to champion for their rights, because there's no way, there is no other person who will fight for your right if you decide to sit pretty.
All right. Well, as we say about that, what do you make of what to expect? I mean, there's been conversation around that there's need for the president to review his cabinet. As we await for the CSs to resume duty, do you suppose that there are likelihoods of this happening, and is it necessary at this point in time?
It is necessary because when you see the current cabinet, I think the only Matiang'i who is making sense. Others are just supposed to go home. I haven't seen a serious cabinet secretary who are delivering for the people of Kenya. Therefore, the president has all the reason to reshuffle and at least send home at least 90% of the cabinet.
Right. There are very many things that determine a reshuffle. Briefly, I mean, their interests, that's for sure. Performance is there, and individuals based on how well conversed they are in the docket that they're being placed. So much involves, the shuffling of a cabinet. And many have argued that there's that need. But really, looking at the timelines and what is happening in the country, do you think it would be the best thing to reshuffle the current cabinet? And are there likelihoods that we'd get better characters coming on board?
Linda, a reshuffle for me is unnecessary. His Excellency the President has come up to be very clear around his agenda, and he has said, I have 4 agenda items. Remember that in the last reshuffle, he even brought in, as you rightfully said again, very good minds. People like Mheshimiwa Betty Maina were not in the cabinet.
Right.
But if you look at Big 4 agenda, one of the agenda items is manufacturing. And Mheshimiwa Betty has been a key convener of huge manufacturing sector leaders in this country through Kenya Association of Manufacturers. So with the hope that once you bring in these people, then they will be able to come with their spheres of influence, so that when you call the likes of my good friend Mheshimiwa Manu Cham, and because the things will get working. The only reason why a cabinet reshuffle may be necessary, and I think the president is also being very clear and very edgy about it, is because of the time that the president has, not in terms of towards elections, but the work that needs to be done. The only reason why that would be necessary is probably because of allegiance and loyalty. Because you have people, remember this cabinet was convened through consultation and dialogue between the former, not the former, but the deputy president. I almost said the former deputy.
You're forgiven.
The deputy president and the president. And they said it's a 50-50.
Okay.
But you cannot be a father of a house where some kids choose to listen to you when they want. And they choose to do things when they want without necessarily, without special regard to the leadership of that particular household. But that also means that the father has to be very stern. When you say, I don't want noise from 10 p.m., go to sleep.
It should be so.
It should be so. People should not be there at 10:15 trying to, find out, will he react? What will he do? What if we tried bringing in our friends to the house at 12? Will he react? No. You should be a person who says it is a no, and people know that when you say it is a no, it is a no. When you say it is a yes, it is a yes. And that is the only reason why I also think that all these other politicians are getting mouthpieces. So anytime somebody like Mheshimiwa Kipchumba speaks, you can almost tell who is speaking through that mouth. Anytime people like, Keriako speak, you can almost tell who is speaking through Mheshimiwa Keriako, which should not be the case, because the manner in which our politics is done and the way in which a government is put in place is through consultation and dialogue. And so that to me would be the only reason why the president might probably be pushed or forced to have a reshuffle, but I don't think it is necessary. If you only put in strength through the Big 4 agenda, because in less than you have less than 2 years towards the next election, who are you going to bring in to bring on board? Remember, as you said, there is also a lot that comes in with a reshuffle. It's about experience, it's about political clout, it's about reorganizing government towards the next election. Because you also, and the president is serving his 10th year, his last term as a president. So you also want to be very clear around the kind of legacy that you want people to have. I know that 2022 politics might really inform a lot of, even if there would be a reshuffle, and the president has said it. I remember when we were doing the International Youth Week, on the last day, the International Youth Day, he said that he's also keen to bring in more cabinet administrative secretaries into his government. Yeah. Now, that can only be effected. Of course, those positions are they are not on any legislative front that is really either constitutional or policy. But as a president, you want to bring in a team that can be able to help you to live through your legacy. So that is only if you would want to live towards that word, then that would be another reason why a cabinet reshuffle would be necessary. Yes. But still, I don't think it would be premised on politics. Yeah. Who is listening to number two, rather the deputy president, or who is listening to number one, the president? It should be about service delivery to the people, so that when people talk about water and they say your cabinet secretary is not ensuring that water is being delivered, the CS needs to talk to his peers and ask the peers, who are these people complaining? And you see, that's where, and I agree with Wafula, who says that I am saying Kenyans don't have power. By constitution, we have a lot of power. But Kenyans are helpless. In fact, we are helpless and hopeless because we have gone through an election and people woke up at 3:30, 4:30 to be able to cast their votes at 6. And then you are given that mantle. And the things you said that you would do are not the things that you are doing to be able to make the lives of Kenyans better, and that there is nothing Kenyans can do about it. I can tell you how many petitions I have had to review for people at the counties, and many times they're not even given prominence. The many letters that citizens write to government officials, despite the fact that legislations and frameworks like County Governments Act says that the person to whom this letter is written to needs to respond within 7 to 14 days. That needs to be done. But that is where the people really do not have the power, because they cannot summon OCPD and tell him, can you go and tear gas some politicians? But the political class can actually send policemen to go and tear gas people who are just, meeting to have their own conversations. That really needs to stop, Linda. And so what therefore it means is that if we can have as many consultations between the leaders and their and the citizens, speaking and making their voices count, that I think will be the next frontier of service delivery and development for this country.
I'm just trying to look at the other petition or the other court case that Okiya Omtata is presenting, and I'm like, oh, okay, well, and interesting. I guess Okiya Omtata is the only one who probably goes out there to speak on behalf of the common mwananchi. And sometimes, again, you always ask yourself, what could be behind this, or what could inform this, interestingly. But we drop that one and come to you, Wafula Kalistas, from Western region. Baba now moves to try and reclaim the region. Well, in what many had said, that there are likelihoods that he's lost this. Waluya wamechanuka na wakagundua Baba amekuwa akiwacheza. I do not know what you make of this. Is he likely to reclaim this? We saw him yesterday, of course, alongside the likes of Oparanya. He says that, now this is the lead person who's going to take me through this region to ensure that, again, we hold this. And equally, Oparanya at some point has said also he wants to be president. So, just what is happening within the Western region?
In fact, Oparanya is a joker. Oparanya is not contesting for president. That is the truth of the matter. Papa going to Western region, I think it has no impact because it took President Uhuru Kenyatta to Nyanza to open up projects. Why is he coming to Western Kenya, walking around with the likes of Oparanya, Wamunyenyi? People are just junior in politics. I think Papa need to know that Kenyans Westerners are waking up. They know what they're supposed to achieve in government. And if I catch him using the so-called handshake, the handshake has benefited only Nyanza region, and maybe to an extent the few regions, maybe by the intention of the president himself, but Raila Odinga has never helped Western Kenya. I think he's going there. He's going there alone. Tells you what he wants from us. He just need to vote. He doesn't want us to. He doesn't put development in Western region. Therefore, politics without action I think its time has come to an end.
All right. Does he stand a chance?
Can't make an. Yes.
Oh, okay. Does Baba stand a chance in there? Okay. Well, is he still the person who commands the Western region as it stands? Because clearly, again, there's been so much, division in the Western region. The key leaders equally do not hold as much clout, truth be told. So, is it true that Baba lost the Western region?
No.
He did not.
Until that time when Kenyans will stand and stop Mheshimiwa Raila from speaking on any platform in Western Kenya, only then will we be able to say that he has lost it. But remember that other than Nyanza, which is the second largest voter bloc that Mheshimiwa Raila enjoys, it is Western Kenya. And then third is of course Coast, and then Nairobi, then Northeastern, and the statistics move on. So until that time when, and I think I like what you are saying, that the Luhya leaders also need to speak in unity. If you went to Nyanza, for instance, you will not find any other voices other than Mheshimiwa Raila. Of course, through in leadership and governance is also not a very good thing, because then now you ask yourself, so what? Is there any other? What else do we do? Of course, there are lots of things people can do, but until that time when he will be able to exit the scene, then that's the only time that the people in Nyanza will have an alternative, and the people of Western Kenya and other parts of this country will be able to have alternatives. But that also presents a positive thing. Is it possible to speak to the mind of Mheshimiwa Raila what the people of Western Kenya want to hear? Because he doesn't, of course, want to hear and want to see, so that then they can be able to benefit. Because over time, we only see him when elections are coming up. We never see him when to basically ask around things like devolved governance. When the sugar industry was suffering in Western Kenya, I don't remember. Of course, as a cabinet minister, he was able to do a lot in terms of even the infrastructure of Western Kenya, and because it leads to Nyanza and other parts of the country and all that. But when the people of Western are really going through harsh and tough times, we don't hear this kind of very prominent voices coming up to be able to speak. And by prominent voices here, I mean the voice of Mheshimiwa Raila Odinga. We want to see him talking about the sugar industry in Western Kenya. We want to hear him talking about devolved governance, service delivery to counties. And I repeat again, the Senate has failed to agree for a record more than 10 times. Can he be able to convene them the same way? Of course, looking at his office and the power that he wields. The third thing, Linda, is that Raila Odinga is a party leader of almost the second largest party in the region. That cannot be wished away. In Western Kenya, I have not seen a party that can be able to convene different leaders. Mheshimiwa Mudavadi has his own party. Mheshimiwa Oparanya is, I think, is in ODM. Is it the party, the deputy party leader? Exactly. So talk about people like Atuoli with his Kotu. Look at the number of times, the number of times Mheshimiwa Atuoli speaks to Mheshimiwa Raila as opposed to Western Kenya leaders. Look at the number of convenings that take place. We don't see them convening local network leaders, women leaders, youth leaders, leaders of persons with disabilities. They are always seated at the fourth tent. Tuko nyuma. The people who sit at the front are the names that we know. But almost all these names that we know are singing to the tune of Mheshimiwa Raila Odinga. Why? It's because if you looked at an assessment of elected leaders in Western Kenya, you don't see them coming from Ford Kenya. They don't come from Mudavadi's is called what? His party, Amani Kenya. You don't see them coming from parties that should be bred and birthed from that particular region. And if you listened to what Mheshimiwa Raila was saying, he even said, we don't want Madoadoa this time round. So that already begins to tell you that these people are organizing around a specific objective, which is not to strengthen local parties of Western Kenya like Amani National Congress, Ford Kenya, and all those others. It's about strengthening ODM. The SecGen of ODM is from Western Kenya, Sifuna. Mheshimiwa Sifuna. So that already begins to tell you that as much as there is a lot of parties that are coming up from Western Kenya, but ODM is keen to hold that grip, to strengthen its foundation, and ultimately, I wouldn't be surprised even if all the governors of Western will come from ODM.
All right, interestingly, and in his speech, he equally pinpoints the importance of Kenyans to, embrace BBI. He equally speaks of the Senate stalemate that we started by discussing or touching on earlier on. He calls upon the like of Kakamega Senator Cleopas Malala, to loosen up, so at least we're able to get a truce for the people of Kenya. But Senator Malala says that he's going to maintain his stand. Now that is in a different, podium in Vihiga County. Wafula Kalistas, speaking of BBI and the revenue stalemate, briefly as we get to wind up, what would you make of it? Raila says that the BBI is not coming here to root out or overhaul the current constitution, but to amend, bring changes that are going to resonate with the issues or the problems of the people of Kenya. And in what seems like, a move that had gained momentum, really, in a way most of the Kenyans had started warming up to it, there's that change courtesy of COVID-19. And Kenyans sort of feel like, this is not what we want right now. What will he do to ensure that, again, he's able to sell this agenda fruitfully?
Issues to do with the BBI, I think you saw the first report that they released. If they are going to improve on that report, maybe we will have another conversation. But if the report is what we saw, then Kenyans need to wake up, because it's like we are being used to change the constitution so that we give individuals positions in leadership. PPI, it is not the right time that we should amend the constitution. The way they have stopped the revenue share, just on basis of an argument that cannot even sound, it is an unsound argument, because and the reason that's why we had new counties. We wanted to share resources with marginalized counties equally. Then the constitution stated clearly on how we should share resources. This time they are advancing this discussion just because they want some counties to take advantage of the revenue share. And if Raila Odinga is supporting such a formula, I'm very, very disappointed, because he was the person who supported the 2010 constitution. He told us we are not supposed to change even a word in that constitution. Now, he is living in a denial, whereby we cannot change constitution just because of imagination of few individuals. People who think that they reason on behalf of other Kenyans. Kenyans need to read the BBI report, but my position is that it is not the right time we should amend the constitution. We will have another time, maybe after 2022 election. But if they are pushing the constitution to be amended before 2022, then definitely they are going to use that amendment to fix other people politically, or to give themselves position in leadership, something that we are opposing. Revenue share, my position is, let us follow the constitution, because right now we are facing problems during this pandemic. Then the government has just decided to stop the revenue. How did we share revenue from 2013 up to the moment? Why are they making the life and death situation? Because it's like the president now has realized that his term is coming to an end, and there are many counties which supported him, and he has done nothing to that counties. No, he wants to use this revenue formula to give them money, so that to convince them, support him with issues of PBI and maybe 2022, because I'm anticipating a situation whereby the president is planning on how he can extend his term.
All right. Well, many have argued that way. I do not know how much truth that holds, but yes, as we cross over to Kevin, I don't know whether we need to expand on that, but anyway, on this issue of the BBI, and yes, Right Honorable Raila Odinga has told the IEBC prepare for for a referendum. Still, there are talks of kicking out the IEBC in what again allies of the Deputy President William Ruto would claim that there are likelihoods that there are some people who are planning to rig them out. So they sort of feel like there needs to be an overhaul at that electoral body. IEBC really ready to take us through a referendum and ready to take us through an election?
No. And that is also an undoing of us as citizens of Kenya, because we have very limited say in terms of who becomes chair of IEBC. It is the political class that decides who really becomes their chair of IEBC, because we have seen a number of instances where even opportunities for citizens to vet these individuals is normally very, just messed up.
Yeah.
Of course, the adverts are there, and very prominent Kenyans, people with very good brains apply, but they are never given those opportunities. Now, IEBC, in my view, is not prepared, and that's why I was saying that it's also our undoing, because we need to be able to work with this commission through the whole life cycle of an election. In Kenya, it only starts when we begin to be called to register as voters. Then we go to vote. We never even have proper plans for civic education. Yet within IEBC, it has a whole directorate that is led by a friend of mine that is supposed to ensure that Kenyans are actually taken through proper understanding of why we are doing our elections, how we are going to vote, and who we are going to vote for. Remember Chapter 6, Article 10, they also messed up with it, leadership and integrity. It's the same politicians who messed it up, because Kenyans said we do not want anyone who does not have a specific threshold of education, because from how we do our education in this country, we expect that if you score an A, whether you stole or you did not, but you have a good brain.